start this video of this journey in the Altai mountains. We're going to look at various types of maps and pertaining to migration in particular, and specific animals that we associate with. And there'll be DNA also involved in these maps. And should be an enjoyable episode. I figured out how to add music, as you can probably tell. Ups the quality a little bit. I was going to incorporate the story, or my story, of how the wheel came about in Asia. I haven't really seen this theory elsewhere. I'm fairly certain that given the distribution of where marijuana is dispersed, and the fact that the Scythians were heavily using marijuana in their spiritual practices and ceremonies revolving around which I'd imagine that given the mind-expanding qualities of it, that it may have led to the first act of farming or cultivation, given that it's such a cure-all for many things. The Altai Mountains is the birthplace of shamanism. You can find the earliest drums there. There are petroglyphs with all types of depictions of shamans with drums and tassels coming off of the drums. They've even found samples of the drums to correlate with the images. The way I see it, they started hunting horses originally, and eventually learned how to ride them. Perhaps the way children hang off the horses' necks. One of the theories that I've stumbled on. There are various types of skins or types of shapes in which the skins are stretched in. Horses were introduced for meat and hides because they had a lot of both. And which eventually evolved into a drum. And you can see basically a clear lineage between those technologies, skin tanning and drums. And I imagine that these circular drums were perhaps before the wheel, and that one had perhaps rolled away, and that was the inspiration for the wheel. If you follow where horses are distributed, You'll also find that it runs into the area of the Hindu Kush Mountains and cannabis. In this area, there's studies done with mice and their genetic evolution alongside human evolution. There's interesting maps of this that you can find, and how they're distributed. Because they were the first people to ride horses, they were also the first people to need pants. There was no need for pants until then. People were happy with just draping skins around their legs, essentially. Research in the last 20 years of burial sites and in South Russia and Altai have given us a better picture of the Scythians and a lot about horses. There's an ancient legend that tells a story about the Arimaspians, the one-eyed people in Scythia who had an ongoing battle with the griffins who guarded the gold. And the gold came from the Altai district, the Golden Mountains of Altai. To get to the Caucasus Mountains and eventually Iran, they followed the migration path of the eagle from Altai to Iran. The hint of this is in the symbol of the griffin, where the head and wings of an eagle starts the story, and the body of a lion ends the tale, where I have alluded in other videos to different hints, different connections to different civilizations with shady histories. I plan to do a video on, or multiple videos on, the usurpers eventually, the people that like to steal technology and religion and have multiple proxy civilizations. Despite the impression history leaves of the chariot, it's quite obvious where it originates from. Here we see a chariot that is found in Altai. People probably chased horses for quite some time until they finally figured out how to get a hold of them, how to kill them first and then to get a hold of them. Probably stealing foals, the young. Probably having to follow entire migrations of them, sticking to the riversides as horses often need to drink water. After getting to the Caucasus, they made their way further west into Europe, seeding the peoples of the Franks and the Celts, who became the German and the Irish and the Scots. It wasn't just one wave. There was a wave to Hungary and to Romania. The Franks were ruled by the Merovingians, and they were a royal, long-haired Scythian breed. The Greeks and their city-states, quote-unquote Greeks, more of a band of tribes than anything, with their multiple city-states and various peoples. I was hoping to talk more of, or include, dogs as well, but it seems as though my time is starting to run out. So I'll have to save dogs for another video, and finish the video by showing you the Altai people heading to the east towards what we now know as China. In China, the Scythians, or the Altai people, are known as the UZ. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Or also Tocharians, strangely familiar and similar to Aryans. I won't be able to fit in my theories about the Great Wall and how I refuse to call it the Great Wall of China. I'll cover these migrations a little more thoroughly. This was kind of just a blanketing of how it worked. I hope to talk about the quote-unquote Mongolians soon. And I'll leave you these maps as a taster of this. An appetizer, if you will. I hope to speak of other blue-eyed people and red-haired people, such as various mummies and Chinese mummies. Buddha, he actually correlates with the mice and their migration, and the mouse is a symbol that I believe that sits next to Buddha. Muhammad was also said to have red hair. The Ainu people of Japan are said to have blue eyes as well. And eventually in this channel we'll get into Vikings, as that is also in my genetics. In my genes, I should say. And with that, I'll wish you a wonderful day. Please like and subscribe. And perhaps share to a friend. Start a conversation about something you wouldn't normally talk about.